hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and guess what? I'm not waiting. I'm gonna go watch episode 12 of Case Study of Vanitas, because how can I wait? That cliffhanger! What about Noe? Is he being controlled by Rayburn? What's happening? No, I'm super worried. My fear is that whatever is happening to Noe, either I'm like, why would you drink his blood unless something happens? My fear is that Rayburn has he's implanted something into Noe that's gonna be like a bomb that will go off later, kind of like with Jeanne, and I don't like that. So I'm like, no! So I feel like I need to know what happens, right? We need to find out what happens, right? I just have a couple comments before we start. Wushin Sweebian noted that the Vampire of the Blue Moon's voice actor is Romy Park. And I was like, of course it's Romy Park. Of course it's Romy Park. Because we've been debating about, is the Blue Moon vampire, is it a woman, is it a man? Because the little boy that was with Vanitas called them father, and then, but it seems like a more effeminate, it's just very hard to tell, right? And Romy Park is known for being a voice actor that does voices for like Hanji from Attack on Titan, for Yuta, for Jujutsu Kaisen, for Shinji from Neon Genesis. Like, Romy Park doesn't care what your gender is. They're just gonna do a really freaking good job voice acting for them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, of course. So yeah, so the Blue Moon Vampire is voiced by Romy Park. Awesome. Great. I'm really excited about that, right? But yeah, I just don't know. Like, what are we gonna do? I had to know what was gonna happen. And then Spacebug 1964 talked about how the mangaka for Full Metal Alchemist and this mangaka that created Case Study Vanitas are really good friends. And I'm like, that's cool. Like ladies in arms, like two ladies like writing these kind of shonen-esque manga. I like it. I like it a lot. I love Full Metal Alchemist. So I'm like, that's really cool that the mangakas are friends. That's nice, right? It's always cool when you find out how mangakas know each other and are friends with each other. Like, there's several that are on Twitter, they're like, we're besties. And I'm like, that's kind of cool in the profession, right? But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really nervous, if I'm being honest, because I just don't know what's going to go down. And I have a feeling that everything's going to seem like it's okay. It's going to seem like nothing happened with Noe, and Noe's not going to remember it. And then, like Jeanne, there's going to be a mental block there, and it's going to be like, what's happening? So it's just going to cause anxiety, I'm sure. But we are going to find out. I want to give a special shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, who are amazing, and they do an awesome job of supporting me in what I do, as do all the patrons over on Patreon. You guys are all amazing. Whether you're just here for the Discord and voting, whether you're here to get things a week early, or whether you're in the philanthropy tier and you're getting all of the above, plus tie-breaking rights and a mention in my videos. Thank you all so much. Thank you to Edgar, to Dana, to Anime Annie, to Tyrone, to Nameless Monster, to our moderator Be Happy, as well as Alex Cornejo, Kiri, Shimoyama, Truck, Librarian of Long, Kuba Lutic, Eric, Sunspots, Translucent Men. You all are amazing, and I deeply, deeply appreciate it. So, all of my love. But yeah, I've talked enough. I want to know what happens. They're not gonna give us answers. I can already tell. But you know what? Maybe, as I'm being somewhat optimistic, maybe we'll get answers. Probably not. But we're gonna find out, y'all, and just see what happens. So we're gonna dive into the case study of Vanitas, and we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. That's how I feel about this episode. Oh my god, no, this was okay. So this was apparently, I remember everybody saying when I started that it was split into 2 cores. So this was the halfway point of the series, and it very much feels like the halfway point. It feels like we are setting up to go into the next season, the season, even though there's only one, to go into the next core. We're setting everything up for that. It feels like it. I'm just like, oh my god. It definitely feels like one of those setup episodes to set everything up, but I'm so, like, Rayburn is terrifying. Rayburn is terrifying because he has this ability to control. I love the butterflies, like the butterflies we've seen in different series as like a motif for communication and for death. And so seeing him use that to control people, he's able to control vampires. Once he sucks your blood, it like infects it. So we need to talk about that because that's kind of an interesting thing. So Rayburn has this ability, right? Rayburn has this ability. It's an ability. It looks like a curse. It looks like the curse bearing, right? It has like the black shadow. It has the black shadow of a curse, but it is a way to control vampires. So we don't exactly know Rayburn's backstory. We don't know how he's connected. Is he connected to the Blue Moon Vampire? Is he connected to like the original Red Moon Vampire? We don't know. We don't know how this all goes. But it feels like, and he's clearly tied to Charlatan. He's tied to Charlatan. So is he creating curse bearers? Is he? Because we thought the curse bearers come from the book, and I don't want confirmation or deconfirmation. We'll find out as we go, I'm sure. But he clearly has a connection to it. It seems like it's almost like a pseudo curse. It's not exactly the curse bearers like the book of Vanitas causes. It's not like what the Blue Moon Vampire causes, but it's like a pseudo version of it. And he basically uses, when he bites his victims, he takes control of them and he makes them form like a pact and a vow. So he's made this vow with Noe that Noe doesn't remember, because of course Noe doesn't remember it because he's a damn cinnamon bun, that at one point, he will obey his command. And I was like, the whole time he was like saying swear, and I'm like, no, don't do it. But he did it. And I'm like, damn it. So at one point he's going to have like a free use of Noe to do whatever he wants. And the problem is Noe is incredibly competent. Noe is actually really strong. He's just a cinnamon bun, so he doesn't use his power all the time. So my theory at this point is the reason that Vanitas dies is that he's going to tell Noe to kill him. He's going to be like, get rid of him, kill him. If Vanitas gets too deep into trying to deduct like Rayburn and his brother, Luca's brother, all that stuff, like if it gets too deep, I feel like Rayburn is going to tell Noe to kill him, and Noe is not going to realize. He's going to be like, why am I killing Vanitas? And he's going to have to do it no matter what, right? So the question is, what vow did he make Jeanne do? And I feel like with Jeanne, the vow that he made her do was that she cannot speak of Rayburn. I feel like because Jeanne is close to Luca, she found something out she wasn't supposed to. She got in too deep, and Rayburn's like, oh, well, I don't want to kill you because Luca's really attached to you, and you also protect Luca, who's my relative that I might want to protect and use later. So he's like, I'm going to keep you around because you protect Luca and you clearly care for him, but I don't want you to tell anybody what you know. So I'm going to make you take a vow that you're never going to speak of what you've seen. And there's a mental block there. And Vanitas has kind of figured it out. So we need to talk about that, right? And so, but a side effect, it seems like a side effect of Rayburn's bite, I'll put that on here, is that it makes you crave blood. Now, again, it seems like almost a pseudo version of the curse, because the curse of the Blue Moon Vampire makes them monsters. But as Vanitas says, he's like, you've not turned into a monster, Jeanne. You've not done that. So it's not exactly the same curse, but you're craving blood like someone that is a curse bearer. So what's up? So it seems like just a pseudo version of that, but it's making you crave blood. Now, we'll talk about that with Jeanne and with Noe, because there's a distinction between the two of them. But I want to bring up Vanitas and put Vanitas over here. Vanitas, I believe, has figured out, that Rayburn is no good and could be tied to this mystery. I don't know if Vanitas fully knows that Rayburn is tied to Jeanne necessarily and why she can't talk about things, but he knows that Rayburn is not good and is tied to this mystery somehow in a bad way, and Vanitas is cautious of him, right? He also has realized that Jeanne has some kind of mental block. that is keeping her from talking about things. The question is going to be, is he going to ask Noe later on about Rayburn, something about him, and Noe's not going to be able to answer him the same way that Jeanne wasn't able to answer, and Vanitas is going to put two and two together, because Vanitas is very intelligent. Vanitas is like, he's our Sherlock. He's piecing things together, and he's like, okay, why can she not answer things and has this craving for blood? Why can you not answer things and have this craving for blood? Ooh, there's a connection, and it involves whenever I bring up Rayburn, you can't talk about it. I feel like Vanitas is going to put 3 and 3 together. But the question is, Noe is so gullible and innocent. Is Noe going to believe that Rayburn's a threat? Or is he going to be like, oh no, I was having tea with him. And then Vanitas is going to be like, do you remember what happened after tea? And he's going to be like, wait, I was in bed all day. And then it's going to be like, aha. So he knows something's up with Jeanne, right? He knows something's up with Jeanne. He's trying to figure out if she is a curse bearer or not. He's like, I'm trying to figure this out, but I don't know exactly what to do. So he's like, this is somewhat problematic. I'm trying to figure things out, but I don't know what to do with it. So here we are. But yeah, so there's that he's trying to figure out, and I want to go through this episode to get more stuff here. So Vanitas is incredibly intelligent, right? And so they talk about going back to get the parasol and the hat that Jeanne left behind. And I like that Vanitas is like, there's no way we can do that. There's already been chasseurs, I'm sure, go on the scene. They're going to be staked out at that location, seeing if we come back to it. We're not going to go back and get your hat. And she's like, oh no, Dami, your hat and everything. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Dami is okay with it. And so she's like, Lady Dominique. And he's like, I'll escort you to the barrier. And she's like, oh, what? And he's like, oh, did you want to stay with me till morning? Again, that's just Vanitas trolling, right? He's had every intention of taking her back, because at this point we find out in the opening, and I'm glad that Jeanne finds out that Vanitas knew. Like, the whole time Vanitas was very much aware that she was trying to seduce him only to drive him away. Like Vanitas is onto it, right? And that whole last episode, Vanitas is like, I get exactly what you were trying to do. I just went along with it because it was a way for me to troll you. So I do like Jeanne and Vanitas' relationship, but I don't ship them romantically. I'm like, no, I find them like they are friends that have a very distinct attitude towards each other, and they're a fun dynamic, and I like them together in scenes. But do I think that they're a ship? No. And if you ship them together, that's totally cool. I won't judge you. You probably will judge me for my ships, but I just don't see it. I just see it as a friendship. And we know from Jeanne, she's like, well, I can't leave without achieving my original objective. And it's like, Because here's the thing with Jeanne, too. And I'll just put Jeanne, where can I put Jeanne? I'll just put her in green over here. Let me put just Jeanne over here in green. The thing about Jeanne that is that she is easily blushy with everyone. Because when Rayburn comes around and, like, Rayburn puts on the moves, he gives her the coat, he, like, caresses her face, and she gets instantly blushy, like, oh my gosh. Like, it's not just that she really likes Vanitas, she's just one of those people that is instantly, like, affected by any affection instantly, no matter who it is, whether it's Rayburn or whether it's Vanitas. I'm pretty sure they included that moment for us, the audience, to be like, okay, she's really affected by anybody. If Noe put the moves on her by accident, she'd probably react the exact same way. Right? That's just how Jeanne is. And I like that about her character. I like that she's a strong woman, a strong female character, but has this femininity to her. It's really, really cute. And Vanitas is like, yeah, I figured out, your objective way early on. She's like, I've worked so hard. She's like, I was pretending to be in love with you. And she's like, I screwed up and told him. And he's like, yeah, I figured it out. Yeah. He's like, that side of you was pretty lovely. Like, you trying to fool me. She's like, ugh. I just like that Vanitas has this disheveled coat on the whole time. He's like, that's what I liked about you. And she's just like, ugh. She's like, why? She's like, you fooled me. So I didn't even think about this last episode. There was too much going on. But Vanitas brings up the idea of, why did Luca let her come? Because if Luca knew she was going on a date with Vanitas, he would probably have thrown a fit, right? But then she explains what was happening. He's like, are you sure that's okay? And she's just like, and he's like, oh, you didn't tell him that you were coming with me. Master Luca's with his elder brother. So, I need to put on here that Luca is with his elder brother today. And I'm like, isn't the brother the curse bearer? Isn't that the situation? Yeah, the Grand Duke's brother. You speak of the Bestia Loki. So, Bestia, got new character name, Bestia Loki. A little bit worried, because usually Loki's, if you've watched, usually Loki is like the trickster, right? So, Bestia. I was wondering if it was Bestia, so I'm wondering if Loki is the beast, right? I don't know if that's true or not, if Loki's the beast. Luca said that his brother, Luca and Loki, that makes sense. He said Luca said his brother was a curse bearer, and so I wonder, and Vanitas doesn't look very happy when he says that, so I wonder if Loki is the red, beast of Gavadon or whatever it is. I wonder if that's the case. And she's like, yes. And that's why I was told to take the day off and receive permission to come see you. And then Vanitas is like, wait a minute, permission? From who? Who gave you permission? And that's when he's like, oh my God, Ruthvern. Ruthvern gave you permission. Why did I say Rayburn? Ruthvern. I know. Ruthvern. Yeah. He's like, wait a minute. Why did Ruthvern give you permission? He knows that I've been distracted by you this entire time. That's no good. And then, of course, we find out that Ruthvern has, basically used his power to make him to swear to obey him. And then it becomes like a collar around him, and I was getting Neon Genesis flashbacks when it like the collar around his neck disappears. I was like, no. So basically that collar, he's got him on a leash. And as soon as he decides to use him, he's going to snap his fingers, make it happen, and he's going to be controlled by that vow that he made. And Vanitas is going to be like, really? You let yourself get in this situation? No way. So the charlatan, the one guy, the spider, he comes back and says, why didn't you kill him? If he's a threat, why didn't you just get rid of him? I was like, well, I think, yeah, he changed his mind. He's going to give reasons. But I'm also like, Vanitas would have probably destroyed you if that had happened, right? Because Vanitas just left Jeanne in the middle of the city to go after Noe. You're not subtle, Vanitas. You clearly care about Noe a lot. You do. You just are a tsundere, don't want to admit it. And then Ruthvern says, the shapeless one concerns me. We have to discover why that monster is keeping an archiviste close at hand. Yeah, okay. So, Dami's grandfather is a monster. Yeah, So the shapeless one, the shapeless one, the name alone is pretty terrifying. We've seen his face in the flashbacks. It's pretty terrifying. But Ruthvern, the fact that Ruthvern calls him a monster is terrifying. So yeah, he's a monster. And why does he have Noe? I think it's pretty obvious why he has Noe. I think that Noe's powers are something that the shapeless one wants to use. Now the question is why? To what end? He's fascinated by Noe because Noe is innocent and also is not affected by the blue moon. So I feel like the shapeless one has some kind of inkling of an idea of what they're doing. So I don't know. We don't know. What could it be? So yeah, and then Vanitas is just like, oh my God, you're back. Now, he grabbed where Noe grabbed where Ruthvern bit him, but he has no memory of it happening. So I'm like, that's the most frustrating. I hate tropes that mess with memory. And this is he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember. And he's like, have you been injured? And that's when he notices the hand. That's when he notices the cut on where Jeanne bit Vanitas. Vanitas like, don't worry about that. He's like, I was worried about. I feel like Vanitas is so frustrated because he was worried about Noe. And for Vanitas to show that emotion, it bothers him. He's like, I don't want to be seen as somebody that shows emotional favoritism towards people, but I clearly just did for you, and then you turned out to be okay, so I'm frustrated by this because it's a vulnerability, right? It's Vanitas revealing a vulnerability, and that's the last thing that Vanitas wants to do, is to show anybody that he has a weakness. That's the problem. The problem is that him running back, And if Jeanne even remotely tells Ruthvern that he ran away, she's like, oh, well, he just ran away all of a sudden. And Ruthvern's gonna be like, I feel like Ruthvern probably already knows that Noe is Vanitas' weakness, but if he doesn't, I think that's the last thing Vanitas wants to real. Because here's the thing, Vanitas does care about Noe. He's a tsundere, doesn't want to say anything about it and reveal it. But the last thing Vanitas wants to happen is for Noe to be used as a chess piece to be used against Vanitas as Vanitas' weakness. And he doesn't want people to know that. So it's almost like he keeps Noe at a distance because he's like, I don't want people to know that you're my weakness. Stop. And this just kind of, it proved his point. He's like, damn it, I was really vulnerable just now. And that wasn't a good thing. And then Ruthvern shows up. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't mean to do this. I did harm one human, but it was consensual. I had their consent. And he's like, well, then that's not a problem. And yeah, he says, I have no doubt Eric and Louise would have loved to have seen you like this. So we get these names thrown out, Eric and Louise. Eric and Louise. Who are they? We don't know them. Who is Eric and Louise? We don't know who they are. But he's like, they would have loved to have seen you like this. So, I mean, were they vampires that were killed that were tied to Jeanne? We don't know yet. He throws those names out like we should know who they are. And then he's like, oh, Professor, yeah. And Ruthvern's so manipulative. Like, he looks so sincere, but he's clearly not. And I guess that's the one thing that's kind of interesting about this series, is that Ruthvern seems sincere. He seems like a good guy, but he's very much not. And the shapeless one has been called a monster. He's looked terrifying, but is he? I mean, if this series is going by you can't judge a book by its cover, then Ruthvern may be the one we have to worry about, and the shapeless one maybe end up being the hero of all this. I don't know. It would kind of be an interesting irony if the shapeless one ends up being the one that we actually can trust and like, despite him being terrifying, and Ruthvern's the one that's the problem. So, and then and so then we have Dami and Dante. I love Dante. He's such a sweetheart. I love him. And Dominic's like, something's going on. So Dami is getting wind that something's not right. She's like, my thing is she going to notice something's off with Noe? Because Dominique has known Noe since they were kids. She knows him left and right. So will she notice that he's acting strange, like Jeanne is acting strange, and will she tell Vanitas? Because I could see Dominique working with Vanitas if Noe's safety is an issue. I don't think Dominique likes Vanitas. I don't think they get along, but they both equally have a connection in that they like Noe. And so I feel if she believes Noe is in danger, she's either one going to blame Vanitas, or she's going to ask Vanitas for help and be like, hey, something's up with Noe. Can you help me figure it out? Noe, and Vanitas will be like, I don't want to do it, but secretly he'll want to do it, right? So yeah, I see that being something that happens between them. Meanwhile, we have Roland and Olivier. You talk about shipping. I love Roland and Olivier as a ship. Olivier is the tsundere. I don't want to admit that I care about you, Roland, but I secretly care about you and your well-being. But also, I realize that you are stronger than me. I'm like, ah, ha, 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 ha. Roland is so good. I love his character. I love that Roland is out for Roland. And Roland also believes that he's like this apostle. I'm like, you know what Roland reminds me of? And you'll have to humor me because I've been like obsessively watching RuPaul's Drag Race for like the last 6 months, catching up. Roland reminds me of Valentina a little bit, in that Roland is living in his delusion. Roland reminds me of Valentina in that he believes what he wants to believe. And that's what it is. And he's like, if I want to believe Vanitas is my ally, he's my ally, and I won't accept anything else. He reminds me of Valentina in that Valentina is a drag queen on that show that very much is adamant about, this is my life, this is my reality, I'm living in my delusion, and I'm happy about it. And Roland strikes me as the exact same way. I'm like, yes. And I like Roland because he's so honest about it. Like when he threatens Olivier is like, you can't just be looking through these documents and you can't just do what you want. He's like, what if the church gets mad at you? And Roland's like, are they gonna stop me? I'm like, ah! He like threatens Olivier a little bit, being like, are you gonna stop me? He's like, I think I could fight any of them except you. Are you gonna fight me? Because he knows Olivier doesn't want to fight him. That's the thing. And Olivier's just like, Okay, so yeah, I feel like Roland, and the thing about it is the church doesn't seem too concerned. The church is like, Roland's not gonna betray us, right? And that's when Olivier's like, well, Roland's out for Roland. He's not really out for anybody else. I love Roland's look. I love the suspenders and the high-waisted pants. I love the jacket over. The fashion in the show when it decides to be fashionable, I'm like, yes, please. And I just love that. I love Roland's just like, I haven't read any of the forbidden documents, don't worry. I love it. He tells Olivier, he's like, I've not done anything illegal. I'm just looking for the documents that nobody wants to take credit for, so it's fine. I'm like, yes, please, Roland. I love it. I love that they're in this little tiny square room, too. He's like, don't be so angry. And I love the color palette. You have the blonde hair and the purple hair, the yellow and purple. And then you have, like, Olivier has, like, the hazel green eyes, and Roland has, like, the deep green eyes. It's great. I freaking love how great he looks in this. And Roland's like, one thing about Roland I also like is that he says, I always thought vampires were pure evil, but now I've seen that I was wrong. So now I need to reevaluate everything. Like, he believes what he wants to believe, but he's very open to having that belief altered, which is kind of cool. He's very open-minded, and he's just like, I need to reevaluate everything and educate myself. You know, I'm like, good for you, Roland. He's like, my eyes are opened. It's fine. This is no cause for concern. And then the one guy, Georges, says, well, nobody as faithful as Roland would ever do any harm to the church, so we're fine. And Olivier's like, no, you don't understand. Roland, it's not just God he believes in. He believes that he himself is one of the Lord's faithful. Like, he believes in him more than anything else and believes that he's doing the right thing. So if Roland believes he has to go against the church to get this thing done for God, he will, you know? And so Olivier's like, we just got to be careful that Roland's interests don't conflict with the church's, otherwise we're in trouble. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just, I love that we're setting this up. But I like the idea that Olivier's like, you're a chasseur, you're a hunter of vampires in the Lord's name. If our superiors learn of this, you're going to be deemed dangerous. And Roland's like, I don't think they're going to do anything to harm me. He's like, I'd be hard-pressed if I battled you, though. I love that he's like, I love that Roland just looks at him. And Roland, for being like a cinnamon bun, like Noe is, Roland is like Vanitas in that he very much knows the game that he's playing. And that's what I like about Roland. Roland is a cinnamon bun like Noe, but he has like the quick wit like Vanitas. He's like, Olivier, come on. We both know that I'm going to be fine. I can do what I want here. Help me out and cut me some slack. I love that look he gives Olivier, just like, you know that this will all be fine. And Olivier's like, oh my God, I can't. And he just helps him pick up the papers. He's just like, fine. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see what Roland's going to be doing in the second half. Yes, and I want to see more of Olivier too. I just love that Dante's still around. I love that. I thought Dante and Rich and Johan were just going to be like one-time, one-off characters. But Dante seems like he's sticking around. And I love that the little bat has like the little pill of information. It's super cute. And he's like, anyone who didn't notice that stuff was going on would need their head examined. He's like, anybody that didn't notice that you guys were following me. And Noe, of course, has no clue what's going on because Noe's been with Ruthvern the entire time. And so then Dante talks about the Beast of Gévaudan. And the Beast of Gévaudan is this red monster, which I think is tied to Ruthvern and Luca and all of them. And it's been attacking women and children, which makes it a very big problem. And so all of the killings that are happening now are tied back to the 17th century when it was originally going on. So this is an old vampire, an old curse bearer, and it's a problem. And of course, Vanitas is like, well, then we're going to handle it. So basically our quest in Act 2, our quest in the second half, is to find this beast. Now, is that girl that's with the charlatan-looking vampire spirit at the end, is that the beast? Is she the beast and it's not connected to Ruthvern? Or is she a different player? I could see the beast being a player and her being someone totally different because she seems like she's out in the middle of the snowlands and seems like she's a different character. So we're gonna have all these enemies from different fronts coming in. But yeah, so we have the beast introduced. and they're setting out to go find them. Now, I loved the green light that was like put out, the green light lantern that was like lit up, and then the whole thing where it took me a second to realize what was happening, but Noe was focusing in on the injury on Vanitas's hand and was realizing that he was attracted to it as they were talking about it. They were talking about how the injuries are the same. He's like, we'll go see if it's a curse bearer or not. And then Noe, they ask him what he thinks about all this because he's been quiet the whole time. And he says, it sounds delicious. And that's problematic too, because now that whatever Ruthvern has done has awakened his like thirst for blood, just like with Jeanne. The difference is with Jeanne, Vanitas knows how dangerous Jeanne is, how strong Jeanne is, and doesn't know Jeanne, I think, enough to be able to just depict whether she's gonna be able to stop herself or not. I think that when Vanitas originally told her, like, drink the blood of me if you're gonna drink any blood, then I think he did that because he didn't know if Jeanne would have the willpower to resist. So he gave her this option. What's interesting is it's almost like one of the vows that Ruthvern does. Like Vanitas telling her, like, if you need to drink blood, you come to me, not anybody else. Like, it seems almost like a vow that Ruthvern does, only Ruthvern's is you can't control it, and Vanitas is like, do we have an agreement? Like, it's actually consensual. But yeah, so I feel like Vanitas made that agreement with Jeanne so that to make sure Jeanne wouldn't attack anybody else, because he didn't know how strong her power of resistance is. Noe seems like he's pretty strong-willed. Now, this has been within the same day that he was bitten by Ruthvern, and already he was trying to convince Vanitas to let him drink his blood. And that was just in one day. Jeanne, we don't know how long she's been bitten by Ruthvern. Does the cravings get stronger as time goes on, or what's gonna happen? But it was really curious how, like, the whole thing, the purple light shining down on Noe, and we hearing like his inner thoughts being like, I can't focus on the conversation. And he's like, I already knew how good it smelled, so why am I wanting it so bad? Why do I feel this way? And then I love that he has like the different like celestial stuff, like we're inside a mainframe of a computer. He's like, oh, I'm hungry. That's why. I haven't ate all day. That's why. And it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense, but is that really the situation? So with Noe, we need to bring up Noe over here. Noe has this craving for Vanitas's blood. Now, the thing that's going to be the tried and true thing is if Noe is going to crave other individuals' blood as well. Because with Jeanne, when Vanitas found Jeanne and she was like having these urges and cravings from Ruthvern's bite, it wasn't necessarily directed to Vanitas, he just happened to be there. I think she would, if Vanitas hadn't been there, she probably was going to attack somebody else, which is a problem, right? So will he crave others' blood too? That is the question. That's the problem, right? So, but the thing about it is he already wanted to drink Vanitas's blood. And what's curious about this is we get a conversation between the shapeless one and Noe, the idea that drinking blood for Noe is a form of communication. And I find it interesting that Louis was there in the flashback. Louis was like, you want to drink people's blood because it's a way to communicate and see their memories, right? And so Noe kind of comes to terms with himself being like, oh, I not only have wanted to drink Vanitas's blood all this time because it seems like it's sweet, and he's been curious why Jeanne was so attracted to him, but also Noe has this natural, I gotta find this toy, has this natural inkling to want to know about Vanitas. Like, he has this intriguing fascination with him. And so part of his desire to drink his blood is just to communicate with Vanitas and understand him better, right? And for Vanitas, that's like a big no-no. We don't want people to understand me. He's like, that has to be it. And so he's like, it's because I slept too much, I'm lethargic. And he's like, well, I could have some bread, but is it right to suck the blood of a human that's been marked? Because he's technically been marked by Jeanne as only being hers, and then we go back to the shapeless one, that he sees memories. You have to be careful whose blood you suck. And that's when he says, if you thirst for someone's blood, you have to coax them into letting you have it. So that's what the shapeless one says. He's like, your whole deal is it's not just that you drink blood out of necessity. You have an ability tied to it. And that ability is very private and very invasive. Like, you're going into their memories, you're going into their, private thoughts. He's like, most people may not be willing to let you have that. So they're like, you got to be careful what you do. He's like, you can't just be drinking people's blood and getting their memories and invading their thoughts. That's going to get people not like you. He's like, so you need to get their consent first. And I like that both Louis and the shapeless one are like, you have to get their consent before you drink their blood. Because if you pry into their emotions or thoughts, that could be something very bad for your relationship with them if you don't have their permission. So Noe, being the cinnamon bun that he is he's like, this is a compliment about your blood. So in other words, I just want a taste. And he's blushy. And when Vanitas says archiviste, where he's like, nope, I'm going to shut you down right now. He's like, I'm going to say this once. So listen well. And the light is no longer green, right? It's no longer green. He's like, if you make any attempt to suck my blood and peer into my memories, I will kill you. He's like, we don't do that. Is that clear? And Noe's like, huh. Because, Vanitas is like, the last thing that Vanitas wants to do is have someone peer into the most vulnerable part of him, right? So Vanitas, he does not want Noe to see his memories. Because, that's the most vulnerable side of himself. Like, we saw how he was when Moreau was bringing it up. And that was just bringing it up randomly. Like, Vanitas does not want Noe to know about his past. He says, it doesn't matter. It's over. Let's not worry about it, which means we should probably worry about it. But he's like, we don't need to see it. So let's just not. And it's like, okay. And so he's telling him, he's like, we're just not going to worry about it. And that's when Noe's like, why do I kept thinking that Noe was going to say, like, I like him. And, that's the BL shipper in me wanting him to say that. But the thing about it is, he does want to know about Vanitas. He worries about Vanitas. He wants to know about his past, why he is this way. He wants to understand Vanitas. And that's at the basis why he wants to suck his blood. What he's not realizing is that Ruthvern's pseudo curse is like amplifying that desire, right? And then I like that Noe was just waiting on him, like clothes and everything. And Vanitas is like, you're coming with me no matter what, right? And they just trail him for a while. And he's finally like, you're throwing me off. You're weirding me out. Explain yourself. What's going on? And Noe's like, look, it's just, he's like, I feel responsible for you being mad at me last night. And I like that Vanitas is like, ugh. like people caring about me. That's why he likes Jeanne so much, because Jeanne actively dislikes him and wants him to get away from him. And Noe wants to connect with him. And Vanitas is like, ew, you want to connect with me? Gross. He just doesn't want anything to do with Noe. And so he's just like, why are you like this? Ew. And he's like, I want to blame you for emitting this sickly sweet scent. But he's like, I can't say that sucking your blood isn't just because I also want to know about your past. He's like, I can't swear that sucking your blood wasn't a pretext born of my desire to get a glimpse of your past. So he's like, you're right. And Vanitas is like, okay, fine. You're being honest. Good for you. I kind of suspected this, but whatever. He's like, why do you even want to bother peering into my past? He's like, what would you gain from it? And that's a really good point. Vanitas is like, my past is my past. What could you gain from it? And, Noe's like, well, I just want to connect with you and understand you better, right? And he's like, I don't know what I would gain, but I did once say to you that I found you intriguing. So there's that. And Vanitas is just like, ugh. He's like, people caring. And he's like, does that archiviste power of yours let you see memories in people's blood, no matter the source? So that's it. He's like, if you drink any of my blood, is it going to show you my memories? Like, if you drink a droplet of it, does it matter where you bite me to see my memories? Is that important? And it is, apparently. He says it's like draining life energy. However, You have to suck from the veins to delve into the memories. So if you don't get into a vein, then if you're just like licking blood off the arm, you're not going to get into the memories. That's not going to be enough, right? You got to go from the source, right? Where the life's drawn from. He says, but with other sources, I can, in rare cases, see fragments of emotions. So that's why he bites Dami's hand. That's why he bites her hand and doesn't necessarily go for the veins, because that way he doesn't have to see her memories. So yeah, so it has to be from a vein to get to the memories. And sometimes with like other sources, it's just in rare cases emotions. So if he just licks the blood off of his hand or something, then it may tell him how he feels, but that's the most. It's not going to get into any memories. And Vanitas is like, okay. He's like, well, the next time I'm injured, just lap the blood off my clothes. And of course, Noe is like, really? It's a one-time offer. He's like, really? Oh, he's like instantly all about it. And he's like, I'm just kidding. He's like, no. And then Vanitas laughs about it. He's like, oh, really? Did that get your goat? And I feel like him laughing is like day is breaking. And he's like, okay, we're back to where we were, right? We're okay. And he's like, okay. So I feel like that made Vanitas feel better. Vanitas is like, okay, as long as Noe doesn't just bite a vein, I could give him some of my blood to appease him and we're fine. I feel like that's going to come into play later. Like if Noe gets like a craving and Vanitas is like, this is weird and is trying to piece together how it's like Jeanne's. I feel like he's gonna let Noe like bite his hand or lick his blood off a wound, or he's gonna cut himself and let Vanitas drink off of it, or let Noe drink off of it. I feel like that's gonna happen. I feel like that's gonna be the thing. But I don't know. I feel like eventually Noe is gonna drink his blood and get his memories. I feel like they're setting it up for it to happen. We just don't know when, we don't know the circumstance, we don't know how, but they're setting it up. And I'm like, and then there's that stupid vow. I'm just like, oh my God. And then they're off. And then they get on the train. We see this person with the pink hair that will surely not be someone of importance. I'm like, are they a chasseur? Are they a vampire? We don't know. They got the scarf around their neck, so we can't tell if they're like secretly a chasseur or a vampire or whatever. Frustrating, but they saw Noe. They have the gloves, so I'm assuming they're a vampire. I don't know. And then I just love that Noe doesn't want to sleep because he thinks that Vanitas is going to leave him. And Vanitas being so grumbly, because Vanitas does not want to say, I'm not going to leave you. Because that's affectionate, right? And Noe's like, well, you're going to leave me, right? And Vanitas is like, oh my God. Because Jeanne would probably be like, go ahead and leave. And Vanitas loves that. But with Noe, he doesn't want him to leave. And Vanitas is like, you're just like a lost puppy and I can't stand this. Whatever. But then we have the preview in the snowy mountains of, it's Charlatan, right? Right? Isn't that Charlatan? Yeah. It's Charlatan or Nene and this vampire. And she's like caressing her, saying here in Gevaldon. So she might be the beast. She could be the beast, right? It says here in Gevaldon, where they're at, I shall make my song of vengeance echo across the land. So she may be a the beast, but her eyes were blue, weren't they? But they're not the same color of blue that Vanitas's are. So is she a member of the Blue Moon Vampire Clan? Is she not? Are those just her eye colors until they turn red? Is she the beast? All the questions! I will probably have to watch ahead. Because now I'm so curious. I'm like, dang it. What the heck? So yeah, I don't know, y'all. I'm super curious what's going to happen. I don't know. I'm just really, really excited, y'all. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, what you guys saw this episode, but I cannot wait to see what the second half of the season brings us. I'm already anxious. I'm already nervous, and I can't wait. So in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with episode 13 of the case study of Vanitas. Bye!